But obviously there is a demand for, like, even in a pandemic and even in lockdown, there's still a demand for sex work and this sort of content. Um, and I was thinking about it, like the kinds of people who use these sort of services, and whether you've gotten to know any sort of like tropes or stereotypes or people that you can like spot across the thing, and you're like, I know what kind of person you're going to be. I know what you are. How it works like day to day as well in terms of being in a strip club, like, you know, when you arrive, how it works, what happens.
Yeah.
But we'll just start about like what type of person like usually uses, and how many different types are there?
Okay, so when it comes to guys, you have quite a few. The businessmen, they're the best. The businessmen, the group when a group of businessmen come in, you're like, oh, money.
Is it because they're like maybe on holiday or like on a business trip, and they're just like,
yeah, it's always a business trip. There's a group of, or they're like, oh yeah, we're just here for however long, and we're in. They're always like, we're just in for a drink, and then they take you for like hours, and I'm like,
they're there all night?
yeah. So they're brilliant. Anyone in a suit, that's usually go to. Also, one of my personal favourites, students when their loan drops.
Oh, they actually go.
That is something else. I remember, like, my first club, I had this guy come in, but I wouldn't even go near a student in like December. Like, if students
No, because
come in,
that's
like December, like no.
that's
But
when all their loan's been spent. You know, too many drinks on a night out.
I remember once, so this guy came in and he was like a first year, and I girls have different ways of getting money out of guys. Some of them, they're just really hot, so they just make money, like, and they'll do loads of smaller timed dances because everyone just wants to dance, like, see them naked, basically. I'm more along the lines of I make them fall in love with me, and then I take them for like hours. So I have less clients, but longer periods of time.
Right.
So this student came in, his loan had just dropped, like literally like the day before. And I literally convinced this boy that I was like in love with him. I was like, oh my God, like you're just the best. And then I was like,
nothing like a bit of emotional blackmail.
this makes you sound like a horrible person, but don't walk in a strip club if you don't want this. So, yeah. And then I was like, oh, I can't stay here. Like, I've been chatting to you for way too long. Like, my manager's going to get really angry at me. Like, I could get fined for this. I really can't stay. And then he was like, oh, but I want to chat. And I was like, well, we can chat in VIP. And then we were in VIP all night. And then his card declined after like 4 hours, and he was like, what, my loan's just dropped, why is my like card declined? He got up his bank and he'd spent his entire student loan.
That's like 1,000. I mean, do you feel at all guilty or responsible for doing that, or do you treat it as like,
he got to see me naked for 4 hours? Like, no. He chose it, like he wanted it. But
was he aware though how much he was
he knew how much he was like, they make you sign.
he was
typing in his PIN number every time. But they make you sign a disclaimer when you hit a certain amount of money. Well, this club anyway, when you start spending a certain amount of money, they come in, and I can't remember how much the threshold was, but they give you a form and you have to sign it to say that you are like you are happy to spend this much money, you are happy to continue spending money, because that obviously then people could come back in and say like, no, I didn't know, they overcharged me. So he'd signed the form to say that he was happy to be spending that much time in VIP. So he knew he just and then when his card declined, he had like 10 minutes left, did the last 10 minutes. I gave him a hug outside of the contact room. I was like, bye babe.
That's a bit depressing.
His face, he was like, come back.
that is actually quite depressing. I can imagine that. Just absolutely losing all your money
to fall in love. Like,
that's a good point. That is a very good point. Okay, so we've had businessmen, we've had students. Are there any more?
Well, I mean, like the worst type of clients that are the ones that come in and they try and haggle down the price. And
it's like they're in a fishmonger.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, do you go into Tesco's and saying you don't want to pay that much for a loaf of bread? No. Then like, stop. These are my prices. Go somewhere else if you don't like it. I hate those. And people that just come in and drink and like they're like, oh, I don't do dances. I have a girlfriend. I don't do dances. Why are you in a fucking strip club then? Get out. Like, seriously. And there'll always be like just two of them, and they'll both like, oh, we don't do dances. And I'm like, but you're happy to sit there and watch the stage show. So
yeah.
Like...
Do you get many people who just walk in sort of like drunken, and it's almost like a dare, and you can see that they're just like taking the mick out of it, and
they're awful as well. Like usually you can tell that like straight away, and then no one will go over to the table. Like they'll just like, usually if one girl goes over and they're like, nah, he's a dickhead, the rest of the girls won't even bother like wasting their time. They'll just deal with other people. And then there's the other type of guy that you would expect to spend lots of money. So they usually look like drug dealers. And they come in like full designer clothes. And like they order like a bottle of Ciroc or something. And then they sit like in the booths. They will never go for dances because they just only want to sit there and like have like Instagram their bottle of Ciroc and be like, look at me, I'm in a strip club. But then when you're like, this is how much dancers are, they'll be like, oh no. And they're usually as well the type that go, well, I don't need to pay for it. And I'm like, why are you here then? Go to a club and shag someone if that's what you want to do. Like, you're in the wrong place if you think you can get it for free.